The 2020 election cycle is heated. It's on the way. We just had earlier this week the very first presidential debate between President Trump and Joe Biden vying to unseat him. What are we to make of this presidential race? And what is President Trump like behind the scenes, especially when he's under pressures of campaigning and the presidency? Let's talk about it with a man who knows President Trump pretty darn well, co-author of a brand new book, Trump, America First, The President Succeeds Against All Odds. David Bossie joins us now. He is also president of Citizens United, going back to 2001, and joining us here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. Sir, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jimmy. Appreciate it.
So you got the book, Trump, America First. Co-author with you is Cory Lewandowski. What can folks expect from this read?
Well, it's a lot of fun. We try to take you behind the curtain of what it's like to be with the president. You get a lot of great anecdotes of being in the motorcade and flying on Air Force One and being in the Oval Office and being backstage at the rallies. We give people a lot of color commentary. Try to show them the fun that the president has and wants to have, and that we have when we get a chance to be around him. And it goes back to 2016 when Cory and I were doing this full time. So we get the benefit of doing that. We'll be in Florida with him at a rally here in the next day or so. So we're this book gives folks that two parts. One is that fun side of it, and then we give them the ammunition for the promises made, promises kept, accomplishments aspect of this administration, so that we can show in one book, so people can read all of his accomplishments, whether it's the judges or border security or the economy, fixing bad trade deals. No matter what it is, it gives people the opportunity to be able to read it and talk to their friends and family members and neighbors about why President Trump should be reelected. And it gives, I think, it's a great, fun read, but it's also an important one.
Let's talk about President Trump's personality, because obviously there's this public persona. He's a fighter. He will go toe-to-toe with anybody, and he won't take flack without firing back. But also, there are many who have this reputation or look at him as a man with the reputation of being crude and being mean or snipey or insensitive in terms of his public persona and how he acts. But when you read your book, Trump, America First, or you hear other accounts from people who know him behind the scenes and the kind of person he is, there does seem to be at least this sort of disconnect between this public persona and what he's like behind the scenes. Talk to us a little bit about that personality aspect.
Well, it's a great observation. President Trump's an incredibly warm and kind man. It's how I met him, actually. I love to tell this story of 10, 11 years ago. I met him because I was hosting a golf tournament. I don't even play golf, but I was hosting a golf tournament to raise money for Children's Hospital here in Washington, D.C., because one of my children, my son Griffin, had 4 brain surgeries and 2 open heart surgeries. And it was a pretty stressful thing for us, but we had good health care, and we wanted to raise money to be able to give back so that people who didn't have access to great health care could afford the same amazing health care that my son got. And so I was introduced to President Trump about 10 or 11 years ago through a mutual friend who knew that I was hosting this golf tournament, and that President Trump had just bought the golf course where we were hosting the tournament. So he said, hey, maybe Donald will give you the golf course for free, kind of thing. And of course, I went to see Mr. Trump after being introduced to him. And he said, yeah, I'm happy to help you do a lot of things, but I can't give you the golf course for free because everybody asks me that and I would go broke. But he underwrote almost all of it. He wrote a check to Children's Hospital himself, and he became dear friends, with my family. And my son, who was 7 at the time in 2010 for this golf tournament, is now 17. And it's a pretty amazing story that we put in the book that just this summer, the president called and asked my son Griffin, who's turned into a pretty good golfer, to play golf with him at the same golf course that President Trump owns, but that we hosted the golf tournament for my son, and it was a pretty unbelievable circle. And while playing golf, the president was talking to my son about that and about that experience, and it was a proud dad moment for me. But that's the person that President Trump is. He's a rough and tumble world leader, and I want a killer as the president of the United States. To be honest with you, I'm not interested in anybody bowing to foreign leaders. I'm not interested in anybody going on an apology tour like Barack Obama and Joe Biden did for 8 years. I want somebody who's tough, but he's also an incredibly caring and warm person. So I find his balance of work and home life, of what he does with his kids and his grandkids, to be a tremendously untold story.
Sure.
And I think the American people would appreciate knowing that.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about this, because especially, like, for example, you look at the debate earlier this week between President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. The contrast was very clear in a variety of areas, but one of the things President Trump kept interrupting, and there were those who were saying, you know, he came across as very rude and so forth. So he's got this persona that is presented in the public, and I just don't think that there's enough of this. What is President Trump as far as his relationship with other people who are around him, whether they are people he doesn't know very well or people he knows very well?
Yeah, Jimmy, I've been hearing this for 5 years.
Yeah.
The days after the first debate at Hofstra University with Hillary Clinton, we had the exact same thing. Trump's style is no good. He lost the debate. Hillary won. Hillary's a master at this. We had Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House, Republican, running for the hills. Remember the audio tape of him telling his members, you can run away from Trump. He's going to be a disaster.
Vote your conscience.
Save yourselves. Yeah. Okay. Yes, vote your conscience. This is outrageous. And this debate commission's a joke. The debate commission was a joke then. They manipulated his microphone. Let's not forget that. I don't know if you remember, but in the first debate against Hillary Clinton, the debate commission's microphone for the president was turned up and down. And it was unbelievably unprofessional of them and what they did. And now they're talking about the microphone again like they're going to control it. They're not going to control the president's microphone, number one. Number two is, I don't know if people know this, but the debate commission happened to pick the second debate moderator was a intern for Joe Biden. Steve Scully, who's a tremendously nice fella, and I love him, but he was an intern for Joe Biden and Ted Kennedy. How do you pick a moderator if you're an impartial organization that interned for one of the two candidates? I find that to be outrageous.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point in terms of this bias. David Bossie, our guest, co-author of the new book, Trump, America First, The President Succeeds at All Odds. I really want to talk about a few accomplishments. Kind of, since you mentioned 2016, I want to go back. So I originally, during the primaries of 2016, it took me a while to get on board with President Trump until mid-June of 2016, about a month before the national convention. I was in Colorado. I'm a talk show host.
Hey, you were a month before a lot of people. It's okay.
Yeah, well, absolutely. In fact, I was in Colorado as an alternate delegate as part of the Colorado delegation, and there were some members who were not, let's just say they were not too pleased with President Trump becoming the nominee, and were going to do whatever they could to stop him. Well, a month before the convention, I came out and I said, look, there are two big reasons why I'm going to vote for President Trump or Donald Trump, because I know that he's going to be the nominee. And we have to support him. Number one, obviously, we have to beat Hillary Clinton. Number two, the United States Supreme Court. He had recently put forward his initial list of 11 potential nominees, which he didn't have to do, yet he did it to show conservatives that he was serious about this position of the Supreme Court and the responsibility he has in terms of the judiciary to nominate and then have the Senate provide advice and consent and to confirm. And not only has he surpassed my original expectations for this idea of a President Trump on the courts, but he has vastly surpassed them. And now we're getting a third Supreme Court justice because President Trump understands the significance of rebalancing the judiciary, David Bossie.
There could be no greater reason to re-elect him than the courts. He's put, by the time he's done here this year, with his first term, he will have put 300 or nearly 300 federal judges on the bench. It's just unbelievable what that means for future generations. That's generational change. And then to have put on a third of the United States Supreme Court is an exciting thing. It's the reason that guys like me, guys like you, do what we do, because we want to make sure that the Supreme Court is made up of people who aren't going to legislate from the bench. They're going to interpret the law the way the Constitution is written.